say that I was thinking a lot about last week's talk, and on one level, I think that last week's talk um, could be potentially harmful, only in the sense of, not really, to be, no, I'm being a little dramatic, in the sense of that it leans a bit on knowing. And as you well know, in Zen, we classic Zen would be anything about knowing, you just go stop it, and just be with it, beyond words and letters, as Bodhidharma would say. So, who is the one who brought Zen from India to China? So, I did have this talk to balance it out, because the problem with knowing a lot is then we set ourselves up for doing it right or wrong, more likely to judge ourselves or other people, of course. And so I do use both, and part of it is we want to remember that they're tools. Even the no method is a tool of sorts, because both, in any way that you come to Buddhism, the practice is to be with things as they are. The problem is, once you define things as they are, then we concretize around them. And so then our evolution is we want to, keep on solidifying around that. So how is it that we do this is the key. So I wanted to talk about beginner's mind, which is in your reading, right? In Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, it's the prologue, Beginner's Mind. And I was going to have us read it, but I'm not going to now. Part of it is, I'll say this, to me, what we just did in meditation, I was joyful, completely joyful. I was at first, was aware of where sound, I kept opening my eyes, trying to identify where the sound is, not from a judgment, but just aware that contact through the ears, going to the object or searching for the object to rest on. And at the same time, though, when I was aware, though, that was what I was doing, then it became for me, I became much more settled. I still, at time, opened my eyes when I heard a sound or looked towards. Because then I also noticed I closed my eye to try to concentrate even more. Not from actually, I myself didn't have any frustrations with the sound. I was just noticing that desire to really focus and concentrate. And then when I was aware of the process of how I was tightening up to concentrate, then I just let go into, oh yeah, beginner's mind is allowing for everything to be as it is. In the Zendo, we just allow for things to be as it is. We have parameters that we try to set up. Silence, moving in ways that we move together so we don't bump into each other and maybe draw into speech. Sorry, excuse me, whatever it is, right? And yet, we're doing it together. And so as it is includes each other. So there's a story in Zen about, so Hui-neng was the sixth patriarch. And Hui-neng was a poor fellow. And he cut up wood and sold it at the market. So one time, someone who bought it said, "Oh, deliver it to my house." So he went to deliver the wood. And then as he was leaving, he heard a monk recite the Diamond Sutra. And he was like, what is that? And he was enlightened by it. So he says to the guy, where did you hear that? And so the guy said, oh, I got it from the fifth patriarch who lives at blah, blah, blah. So Hui-neng, who was taking care of his mother too, somehow got some money for someone to take care of his mother. And he went off, took him 30 days to get there. And so he shows up, and as is the form, shows up and he introduces himself. And so the fifth patriarch says, what do you want? Where are you from and what do you want? And he said, well, I'm from blah, blah, blah. He said, oh, you're like a peasant. And also, and so how would you know anything? You're from the south too, by the way. And you're a peasant, so how would you know anything? And and Hui-neng had said, oh, I want to be enlightened. That's what I want. And he said, you have no education. How would you want to be enlightened? And so Hui-neng says, I am a peasant from my Chinese is non-existent. I am a peasant from Xin province in Lingnan. I have come from far away to pay my respects to you only because I seek to be a Buddha, nothing else. The Grand Master said, you are a southerner and an aborigine. How can you be a Buddha? I said, people may be southerners or northerners, but the Buddha nature originally has no south or north. As an aborigine, my social status is not the same as yours. But what difference is there in our Buddha nature? The Grand Master wanted to talk with me more, but he saw that his followers were all around. So he had me do chores with the workers. I said to him, my own mind always produces wisdom. Not being alienated from one's own essential nature is itself a field of blessings. What work would you have me do? The Grand Master said, this aborigine is very sharp. Don't say any more. Go work in the mill. So I retired to a back building where a worker had me splitting firewood and pounding rice. I spent over 8 months to do this. When the Grand Master saw me one day and said, I think your insight is reliable, but I was afraid bad people would harm you, so I didn't talk to you. Do you realize that? I said, I do know your intention. That is why I don't dare walk in front of the auditorium, lest one be careless. So he didn't join in the auditorium is the Buddha hall or the meditation hall too. One day, the Grand Master, the fifth patriarch, called all his disciples to him and said, I tell you, for people in this world, the matter of birth and death is serious. You lot just seek fields of blessing all day long, and do not seek to get out of the ocean of misery of birth and death. If your own nature is confused, how can blessings save you? Let each of you look into your own wisdom, grasp the insightful nature of your own basic mind, and compose a verse to show me. If you have understood the great meaning, I will bequeath to you the robe and the teaching and make you the sixth Grand Master. It is urgent. Do not tarry. Tarry. Thinking about it is no use. People who have seen essential nature should see it the moment it's mentioned. Someone like this could see it even in a battle line of whirling swords. All right, so then I just paraphrase a little bit here. Now, this is in a monastery, which was only monks. And so they were like in a practice period, an ongo, which means they had a head monk. Sometimes the senior student, sometimes it's they're said that he's an instructor, but basically the shuso. So they were like, hey, the shuso is a head monk for a reason. So he's already like in line, to like get something. He knows a lot. So why should we bother? Let's just have him, right? Put forth his understanding. And that's it. I'm telling you this because when you read the sutra, it's really interesting, right? It's not just like this, but it shows the people's process. The head monk was like, everyone's going to want me to do it because I'm the head monk. But I'm really afraid I don't know the great matter. So I don't really want to write one. But how will I know if I know the great matter or not unless I do it? Unless I tell the master my understanding. So either way, I win, right? So I need to do it because everyone wants me to, and to verify, even though I'm afraid to verify, the only way is to verify by showing what I know. However, he was a humble-ish person. So he went to tell the master, but then he got a little self-conscious. And so there's a spot down the hall that the master will pass every day, that they were doing a mural. And so there were some open panels. And so I said, I'll just write it on there. So I want to be affirmed, but I'm afraid, so I'll do it by calligraphing on a wall. So he writes the verse. The body is the tree of enlightenment. The mind is like a clear mirror stand. Polish it diligently, time and again, not letting it gather dust. I'll read it again. The body is the tree of enlightenment. The mind is like a clear mirror stand. Polish it diligently, time and again, not letting it gather dust. So that was all in secret. So he goes back. Now, the next morning, the Grand Master goes out and he sees it, and reading it, he knew that it was, again, my Chinese sucks, Shen Shu, had not yet entered the gate and did not know his own essential nature. But he said that we are going to leave this verse on the wall. He says, scriptures say that all forms are illusory. So let's leave this verse for everyone to recite. If they act in accord with this verse, they will avoid falling into evil ways. There is great benefit in acting according to this verse. So instructed the disciples to light incense, pay respect to the verse, and learn the verse so they could see essential nature. So all the disciples recited the verse and enjoyed it and celebrated it. Okay? But the master did tell Shen Shu that he had not seen fundamental nature. Now, this went on for a couple days. And now notice Hui-neng is in the back, pounding rice, milling rice, sometimes you hear it, and cutting wood. He doesn't go into the practice places, right? So took 2 days later, when he hears one of the monks reciting that verse. What is the verse? I don't know why my thing just doesn't stay up. The body is the tree of enlightenment. The mind is like a mirror stand. Polish it diligently time and again, not letting it gather dust. So Hui-neng hears this and says, oh, because he was illiterate. So he had the kid, the boy, it says, that's right, says, you know, take me over there. And then he found someone to write it for himself. And he composed this verse. Enlightenment originally has no tree, and a clear mirror is not a stand. Originally, there's not a single thing. Where can dust be attracted? I'll read it again. Enlightenment originally has no tree, and a clear mirror is not a stand. Originally, there's not a single thing. Where can dust be attracted? Now, the fifth master said, oh, I know who wrote this, but I cannot let him know it to the whole, I cannot let the whole assembly know, because he's like a worker in the back, and they would just like riot and want to hurt him if I give him the robe and bowl, if I pass on, if I transmit this to him. So in the night he says, go, I'm giving you the robe and bowl, but you need to go away because they will come after you. So Hui-neng goes off, and there's a story about how they chase him for days. And then this like guy who was the most diligent, he was a general in the army, in fact. And so he was very, you know, besides diligent, he was in shape. So he caught up with him. And as he was coming up on him, Hui-neng put his robe and bowl on a stone and hid. So when the general comes up, he's like, oh, robe and bowl, yeah. So he goes to grab at it, but he can't pick it up. Stuck on the stone, right? He can't pick it up. So then Hui-neng comes out. He says, you can't take it. It isn't something for you. You can have it, but it's not something to be taken, right? And so the general got it. By that he means he became enlightened. And he said, you will be my master. And he said, I want to be your disciple. But Hui-neng said, it isn't safe for you to hang out with me. People can't know that I'm enlightened and I have disciples. So he goes off and hangs out with hunters for 10, it varies, 10 to 15 years in the wild. There's a story that's in all the sutras where he, you know, they were like, oh, you chop wood, you carry water, because you're a lowly person, right? And you cook for us. So he would then take vegetables and put it in the meat stew, and that would be the only thing he would eat. He was a vegetarian. It's really interesting how that's in there as a story, huh? So you're like, well, cute story, nice story. What the hell is she talking about? How does this have to do with anything we're talking about? Now, the Grandmaster, fifth Grandmaster, didn't say, oh, wrong. Whitewash it away, get rid of it. The body is the tree of enlightenment, comma. The mind is like a clear mirror stand, period. Polish it diligently time and again, comma. Not letting it gather dust. Our body, right? The first foundation of mindfulness is awareness of the body in the body. We understand the coming and going, the impermanence and the not self and the dukkha of life, 3 marks of existence, through our study of the body. The body here includes sensation, emotions, and thoughts. Awareness is like a clear mirror. Right? I said that last week. That's one of the analogies. Polish it diligently, time and again, not letting it gather dust. Dust in Zen is delusion. Whenever you read dust in Zen, it's delusion. So it's saying that you can't let delusion gather. You need to polish your awareness. You need to be diligently polishing it so that it doesn't gather delusion. Now, but that's not quite it. But yet the master, fifth grandmaster, still says everyone should recite it. We should light incense, bow to it, and practice it. What was his reasoning? If they act in accord with this verse, they will avoid falling into evil ways, which, as we know from studying the 3 precept, evil's what's considered not good, right? If they act in accord with this verse, they will avoid falling into evil ways. There is great benefit in acting according to this verse. But Hui-neng comes along and said, no, that's not quite there. Here's how it is. Enlightenment originally has no tree. And a clear mirror is not a stand. Originally, there's not a single thing. Where can dust be attracted? Enlightenment originally has no tree. Enlightenment is not just one thing. Enlightenment, on a certain level, doesn't have a cause. Enlightenment's ever present. It's not something you get. Is it really through lineage? I mean, you could say that's what tree is, right? Lineage. Because it has a fruit, it falls, it grows another tree. Enlightenment originally has no tree. It's not necessarily in us, but it's so big in Zen that Dharma transmission is mind to mind. And by the way, it's in part of the Platform Sutra, is that whenever their word is mind, it means heart too. Because in Buddhism, it's not separate. So you could think, oh, it's a heart-to-heart transmission. It's a mind-to-mind transmission. It's huge in Zen. So he's basically saying, well, I came here to study with you. I want to get you to verify me. But now, a clear mirror is not a stand. Now notice he didn't say that the mirror part is the problem. It is not a stand. What does that mean? A stand is one version, right? It conforms it. We can go and we say, oh, most of us don't. Okay, we might look at a mirror as in we see ourselves. We don't, most of us go to a mirror to see the mirror. We go to the mirror to see ourselves, or we go to the mirror and say, oh, the frame is wrong. It doesn't go with my decor. All right. I'm country and that's too, I don't know what, right? Or I'm whatever the cool thing is now, right? Too glittery, not glittery enough, right? Isn't that true? We don't. Same thing with awareness. We don't we pay attention to what's in the awareness, especially the in it, the what in it that relates to me. Or we say it should be like this. This is the frame it should be. It's too rounded, it needs to be square. It's too square, it needs to be round. It's too rectangle, it needs to be. It needs to be, it needs to be. Not like that, like that. We confine it, and we think the thing we confine it in is awareness. Originally, there's not a single thing. Nothing is by itself. Originally, there's not a single thing. Also, there's no, in Buddhism, there's no one thing that started everything off. Where can dust be attracted? If we are aware that beginner's mind includes awe, the reflective nature is all pervasive. It doesn't need to be confined, but at times we do need to. Right? Notice that as a practice, we do need to confine it at times, or otherwise, what? Zen practice, this is the mirror frame we like. Insight practice, this is the look frame we want to put on it. Vajrayana, chanting, or whatever, right? We have to have a frame to have some sense of how do we know what we know right here? What are we aware of? Every time we go, oh, I'm aware like this, we put a frame around it. But we get caught in the frame or what's in the image, caught in the image, not the nature of knowing. So our illusion, our delusion actually, is that we take the content to be reality. But at times we need that, right? So another way to understand the first verse, relative, Hui-neng is talking about the absolute. As Mao often says, Mao Weissman, Zen is all about the absolute. By that, it just means that we keep reminding you of the absolute because we get stuck in the relative. And in part, it's historical, the Theravadins, where everything's well defined, exactly like this. Now, the other thing to understand here, and this is what we're doing, is that we are using vipassana to become aware of what we're aware of, how we're aware, why there's movement to our awareness, or when does it switch, where does it switch, which things makes it switch, what's motivating it. But Zen wants to remind you, and in that we often, actually the irony is we're often looking for delusion. The things you look for are delusion. Right? How many of you can just go up to a mirror and just look? Usually there's some thoughts about it. Right? Oh yeah, the shirt looks all right. Oh yeah, the mirror is dirty, needs to be clean. right? So we don't just approach awareness as it is. We're looking for ways to how it should be, according to me, or according to the framework I want me to appear in. But we can't escape that. What we should remember, though, it's not that dust doesn't land, because we're looking for dust all the time. We mistaken the dust to be what is. So it isn't one or the other, right? It's all inclusive. So beginner's mind includes everything. There's a certain quality as much as possible in which you try not to. You include everything without trying to include everything. It's not a task. It's not the right thing to do. It's not the thing I should be doing, because that's what a Zen mind is. We have to start again all the time. You know, you look in the mirror and you go, oh yeah, I got caught there. And then I have to remember, oh yeah, what else is here besides what I'm looking at or how I want it to be? What is the movement of my mind or the non-movement of my mind here? Part of looking in the mirror to see, where does your mind keep going? It looks at something and then it wants to, you know. Recently I looked in the, I actually went on a Zen thing to talk about the book. And all, you know, when I come on, all I could notice is my glasses weren't very straight. And I just kept, you know, I went to Warby Parker and had it fixed this weekend when I was at City Center. East Valley, right? That's just bugging the heck out of me. Because this is not the way I want to be seen, right? I try to blame a lot of things too. Mild, but I'm still blaming. It takes so long, Kaiser, to get an area appointment, right? So blah, blah, blah. So, but what else is here besides, right? We wake up from the story that we think, oh, this should not be the way it is, you know? Wear and tear. Taking this off and on so often, putting my thing, sitting on it, all sorts of things happen. That's reality as it is. Right? But I don't like reality as it is. I need to get it fixed. Can I start again and say, oh, I'm obsessing about getting this fixed? Can I just stop? Try to remember next time I'm near Warby Parker. You know, I have to keep moving it every few minutes. Beginner's mind is egoless mind. It doesn't mean you don't see yourself, right? It doesn't mean there isn't an I in this mirror that I'm in front of. It means what else is here besides these glasses are uneven, which means me in a certain way. It's interesting I was reading something about from the Theravada tradition. But anyway, the word they used a lot for ego is conceit. And I really appreciate that, because conceit gives you that sense when the ego becomes something big. And that's what they mean by the suffering around ego or sense of self, right? It's when it becomes conceit. It makes itself the most important and pounds it into others. Right? I think that's my feeling about conceit, right? Not the same word as self-love, self-appreciation, right? Conceit is me, I'm better than you. I'm doing this better than you. Always judging, always wanting to be up, competitive. With conceit, suffering arises. That's my experience. That's why I like that word. Thank you, Ado, for the prompt. I've been conceited enough. Let us end this. Let me just add one thing. The beginner's mind is the willingness to be beginner's mind. The one that starts again because it fucked up. Or didn't fuck up, but we'll just start again. The one that is conceited and is willing to say, oh, let's relax on that. It's seeing the dust and not having to polish it away. So at time, that's helpful. When the dust is sticky, it's good to polish it a little bit. But when the dust is just things floating by that's stuck for a moment, next cause and condition, it will just go away. The nature of knowing is more important than what's in the view or what's on the view or what's around.